Did we not get the executive session on the schedule?
Excuse me. I'd like to welcome everyone here this afternoon. At this time, if you'd please silence your cell phone or turn them off, we'd certainly appreciate it. Would you stand for the invocation and pledge?
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather here this afternoon and to conduct the business of the citizens of Walton County. We ask that you bless every family that's represented here, and those that need your special care and touch, we ask that you bless them in a special way. We thank you for all those that serve the citizens of Walton County, from those that are in our Public Works Department, to our libraries, to our Sheriff's Department, everyone that serves our community, we ask that you bless them as well. For all the things that you have given to us in our name, in your name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Demers.
Mr. Chairman, we have some additions and deletions. Actually, we have some deletions and some changes. I'll go over those. First item is a deletion number 13-0313, which is a request to authorize Public Works to excavate drainage easement on Palaio Avenue. And also a deletion number 13-0276, which is a request to approve a change order for Lord & Sons for the TDC. Those are the two deletions. And then we've moved some items on the agenda. We've moved from the public comment section to administration Ms. Linda Sumlin for Workforce Development, and Mr. Michael Flint for the Local Restore Committee. And we've also moved from the consent agenda to under Commissioner Meadows an item for sidewalk funds. And we're also asking the board to move tab O, number 1, under Commissioner Meadows, which is the item for the 10K run, and to have that right after the consent agenda. Those are the only deletions and changes.
Any questions?
Motion to approve the additions and deletions? Changes. Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
The agenda first.
The agenda.
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. No,
Motion
consent.
to approve the consent agenda? No, we just did the agenda. Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is being brought up by Commissioner Meadows on the 10K race.
Yeah, and we're moving this to the front of the agenda because Captain Rowell needs to scoot very quickly, so we're going to go ahead and take this first. We, as you recall, we voted to close one lane, I believe, from 7:30 to 8:30 for the 10K race, and the group came back and met with me and met with Captain Rowell, and they came up with some things that didn't quite work for them. So Captain Rowell took it and looked at the safety issues, and we've come up with an alternate proposal, and we wanted to bring it back to the board to see if the board would approve it. Do you want to go ahead and tell them what we've looked at?
Yeah, the original proposal was to close 2 lanes of the race, basically from Rosemary Beach to Camp Creek, but only half of the distance of the race, leaving 1 lane open for the second half of the race. According to the after-action report from last year's race, we had some problems with that, with flow over from the runners getting in the other lane. There are some issues with only having 1 lane open. They're going to have about 2,000 runners. Again, we're going to have motorists and runners sharing the road. We're going to have to coordinate an east-west direction for traffic in 1 lane. A lot of issues with that. We are proposing that you close both lanes for the entire race for 1 hour. Once the 1 hour is up, we'll move all the runners to the bike path. This will allow us to have better control inside the race. Yes, we won't have the motorists and the runners sharing the road, but there will be some inconvenience. The folks in Seacrest do not have a route out, but we will plan for that. We will have a plan to warn them with electronic signs a week ahead. We will be using barricades to warn them the day of the race. This is Thanksgiving morning. I don't expect a lot of traffic, so we certainly support closing the whole road.
Any questions?
Thank you. So that would be from 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. on Thursday, the November 28th. That road would be closed for 2 lanes for that 1 hour.
Correct. From basically Rosemary Beach up to Camp Creek, probably about a 2.5 mile stretch, 2-mile stretch.
Yeah. So if that's okay with everybody, I'll make a motion that we revise that according to Captain Rowell's recommendations, and make the motion that we approve that.
I do have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
You said there would be 2,000 runners. Where are they going to sign in and register? Where are they all going to gather?
In Rosemary Beach.
Okay, so they'll be off the highway.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They'll have a race area for them to register and everything.
Captain,
Yes, sir.
will this race start on time?
Yes, sir, it will.
It's no delay of 20 or 30 minutes. If you
No, sir.
advertise it's closed at 7:30 and it'll be open at 8:30,
Yes,
that's
sir.
the way it's going to be.
Yes, sir, and that will
Is
be
there any of the
important.
organizers here? I think she is.
And-
You're going to have them ready to go.
Last year, the race stopped exactly on time.
And that will be according to our operational plan. We will have an operational plan to make sure this is a safe event.
Right, and we'll do an assessment after the race to see how it went.
Yes, ma'am. I'll even, if you want me to, I'll get you the after-action report and let you look at it and see what problems we experienced.
Okay.
Any other questions? Have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Mr. Chairman, back to our agenda, tab F for Public Works, we have Mr. Ryan Douglas. He has several items.
Good evening, Commissioners. The first item I have tonight is the South Walton Parking Needs Assessment. As you'll remember, you directed staff to negotiate with AvCon, who was at a recent BCC meeting. We have completed those successful negotiations with AvCon, and we request that the board approve signature of the negotiated fee proposal with AvCon for the amount of $46,930.
Any questions?
Is that out of the general fund or out of TDC funds?
Mr.
Half and half?
Board, with your approval, we'd like to 50-50 share this with the TDC and Public Works Professional Services Fund.
Okay. Motion to approve then.
Yeah, and thanks to Ryan, he negotiated them down from way up there, so thank you, Ryan.
Mr. Enfield, is your motion to approve
Yes.
the 46 with the caveat at half and half split?
That's correct.
Yes. Okay.
Second.
Have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Let me interrupt. The second half of that request, I didn't know if you noticed that, or if you want to do that separately, or you're going to leave that out.
I was going to do it separately. Actually, with regard to that, I was just going to let the board know I've spoken with Mr. Demers and discussed the processing of no parking requests as of right now. We want to discontinue processing any no parking requests until the completion of this parking needs assessment, being that it is directly related to the parking.
And the reason for that would be we don't want to give AvCon a moving target where we put up no parking signs after they've already identified that as a possible place for parking. So if we won't not take any requests, but we just hold on to those.
On filling them.
Any questions?
Do we need a motion?
Motion.
Yes, we'll need a motion to second.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item I have is the agreement with Three Rivers Resource Conservation and Development Council Incorporated Partners for Fish and Wildlife Programs for funding in association with the Oyster Lake Restoration Project. In fiscal year 2012-2013, Public Works identified and allocated funding for the Oyster Lake Bridge and Outfall Restoration Project. This has been a long time coming, by the way. But as part of our allocation for that project, it took into account the need for this $161,000 agreement with the Three Rivers Resource Conservation and Development Council. So we request the board's authorization and approval of that agreement with the Three Rivers Resource Conservation and Development Council Incorporated Partners for Fish and Wildlife Program.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item I have is the County Road 2 Phase 3 CEI Award. You'll remember this is a LAP project, and this we're looking for direction tonight from the board. The evaluation team has met and evaluated the 4 proposals and ranked those, but we're looking for direction from the board whether you desire to hear presentations from the top 3 ranked firms or whether you desire to have a recommendation of the number 1 ranked firm.
Can I ask who was on the evaluation team?
Who was on the evaluation team? Myself, I believe Billy McKee and Tommy Hunt, I believe.
Okay. Do you have recommendations?
Tonight I was just prepared to ask for your direction on what you wanted to hear. If you wanted to hear the recommendation from that group, I wasn't prepared to give that to you tonight.
Mr. Sheriff, it's already been evaluated. Why wouldn't we just have staff bring it back with their recommendation? And if the board's got issues or questions at that time, then we could ask them.
Okay, that's fine. And the reasoning behind that is in the past, sometimes we've done short presentations, and that really is the big distinction. Are we going to do short presentations or not? So
I thought we decided that we were going to do short presentations, and the board was going to make any decisions on any kind of funding of road projects.
I don't know if there was an agreement on that, but there was one issue where we did want to see that come back. But I think that when we've got the standard ones, especially on grant-related ones, I think we can rely on staff for the recommendation. And certainly if we've got questions or if we've got concerns, we can address them when they bring that back.
But then does that mean that those firms need to be here in case we want to ask them questions?
Well, that means we don't get to really ask them questions.
Yeah.
We take the, once again, as I stated last time, we're under the sunshine. We're the ones that are liable. I think that we ought to be the ones that pick the firms. I mean, we can take the Public Works review summaries and take them into account, but I think it needs to be the board that makes the final decision. And we need to hear from the firms.
I tend to agree with Commissioner Meadows.
I guess the question is, why do we have staff review them then?
Because it's a two-tier process.
Yeah.
Staff reviews them first and ranks them, and then we take a look at it and we decide who we think is number one.
Would it work that if we give it to staff to review and rank, we can receive copies at the same time? But I would think that
What is our standard operating procedure for this? Do we have one?
I think on most other issues, we rely on whatever the team, whether it's roads or anything else, that if we get an RFP or an RFQ, not necessarily RFQ, on the RFPs, if there's a ranking by staff, by a group that has come in, we normally rely on that. But if we do have a question, we can ask it at that time.
Right. We haven't relied on that in the past since I've been elected in November. We've had 4 or 5 presentations from different groups. We've never relied on staff, as far as I know, to do that. And I know that this was a big issue last time. I think the commissioners need to make the final decision.
I think there have been, maybe not road necessarily.
We've done it both ways.
That have been done.
Well, I think if it's continuing services, then
Based upon staff evaluations.
I haven't seen any.
We did the health insurance was the most recent one. We also did the pharmacy for the jail, where we brought back the top selected firm.
Yeah,
for
but
that.
these are multi-million-dollar contracts they're multi-million-dollar contracts with these firms, and I think that the board has a responsibility to make those final decisions. The board's under the Sunshine Law, we're under the Ethics Law, we're under the Stat Public Works is particularly not. I think that the decisions have to be made at the board level. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I think they have to be made at the board level to eliminate any kind of challenge.
Are we not making that decision at the board level based upon their recommendations? But also, if we've got questions.
Yeah, but you're saying that you don't want to hear the firms and you want to go with their number one point. You're saying that you want to let staff pick it, but you just want to reiterate and vote for the top one.
We're letting staff come to us with their recommendations, which if we want to challenge, we can.
Right, but if they've got 3 recommendations and we're giving it to one, don't we want to hear the 3 proposals? Don't we want to hear from the 3 people, or do we want to just go with their top choice?
They're making the recommendation to the board, and certainly if you've got reason to question their top choice, you'd have every opportunity to do that, including the point of saying, let's delay this and bring the firms back.
And to me, that delays things. I trust our staff. I weigh heavily on their recommendations, but I think there are things that we are expected to do in our capacity.
And I think there are things that we know that perhaps the staff does not know that weighs in on the opinion as well. I don't want to acquiesce that decision to the staff. I think it's.
And I agree that at that level of, as you say, funding, we're talking multi-million-dollar. I think the public looks to us to make the right decision. And it's 5 minutes. If you have 3 firms and they do 5 minutes, that's 15 minutes out of a meeting.
Are you suggesting that if a contract is $1 million or more, then we should have the firms come in?
Yeah. No. If it's a road contract where we have different firms submitting for the contract, the price doesn't matter. But most of them are $1 million and plus contracts. Most of them are big contracts.
We're talking 15, 20 minutes out of a meeting. We spend as much time talking about it now than we could have heard from 2 of them.
Is the problem you don't want to spend the time, or is the problem is that you just want to take staff's recommendations?
Well, you're making the assumption that we're going to take staff's recommendation, but we've got paid professional staff that we've asked to do tasks that if we're going to do them ourselves, why are we even asking them to make an evaluation?
Staff is also human. We're elected officials. We're elected officials.
And we're not human. We're not.
Well,
We're not.
we're a little.
You may not be.
Well, to me, it delays the process. If you have a problem, and let's say we've got XYZ firm here, and I question something on X, then we've got to delay this decision to the next meeting to bring X in for us to interview them.
Exactly.
When you could handle it all in one meeting if we heard from them.
We need a standard operating procedure.
true.
I mean, why do we have to get in here and debate this every single time, or 2 or 3 times? We need a standard operating procedure. And I thought we settled this last time when we went through this same gyration. I think Commissioner Chapman even made a motion last time that we just let staff do it, and we voted against doing that. So why are you bringing it up again? You're not bringing it up. Why is Bill bringing it up again?
Well, I'm asking, why do we have staff do an evaluation if we're not going to listen to their evaluation and act upon that?
We didn't say we weren't going to listen to it. We are going to listen to it. We're going to look at the top 3.
But what do you use as the criteria of whether you bring somebody in or you don't? The insurance is $7.5 million. I mean, that's a significant chunk of change, far more than any of these road projects we're talking about. But we took staff's recommendation off of that. And there was another one, too, that was pretty significant. So I'm just trying to figure out where we're at, where we're going to do it.
Well, insurance is a highly complex negotiation with these different insurance companies. I mean, I think it's not apples and oranges. I just think that the board, should be the deciding factor in who gets these contracts.
We are. We vote.
Not if you're going to say we're going to take the top recommendation. That would be like, well, you know. So I would suggest that we come up with some standard operating procedures, but that they rank them and that we listen to the presentations.
To me, the top 3 doesn't take that long for us to do. But yeah,
So-
we have a clearer understanding. It gives the public a chance to have a clearer understanding. And I think that's important.
So Commissioners, am I hearing you say that you want to see the top short presentations from the top 3 firms without the numerical ranking? I think that's something Commissioner Chapman had mentioned before. He didn't want to see numerical rankings. We're willing to do whatever, but we just like a little bit of clarity on that.
You can give us the numerical rankings. I don't
mind that. It doesn't mean, your number 1 may
You
not.
want them numerically ranked?
I don't care.
Well, I was kind of looking at it, if you rank 1, 2, 3, they rank 1, 2, 3, and we pick 4 or 3.
Well, you can't pick 4 if it's 1, 2.
Well, I understand. But if we pick something other than the top ranking, then how are we going to justify that to the ones that
Because
lost?
we're the ones that make the decision.
I understand that.
We're the second level.
Why ask staff to put themselves in a position of ranking 1, 2, 3, and then we could take something less than
Well,
what
then
they
don't rank
recommend?
it. Just
That's
bring
what
us the
I'm
top
saying,
3.
don't rank it.
Bring us the top 3.
Okay.
And we'll draft up some standard operating procedures for which ones we actually do the presentations for and bring that back to the board for the board's approval. And the rest of them will continue to do ranking top 1 and bring in the top ranked one to you.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Works for me.
All right, thank you. We'll bring that in an upcoming meeting. But as far as that, do I need a motion from the board to approve the presentations from the top 3 firms for the next meeting?
No, we'll just schedule those for the next
All right,
meeting.
Good deal. All right, the next item I have is a County Road 30A speed limit signage retrofit. The signage along 38 is in disrepair at best. The reflectivity of the signs is poor. It's just at a point we need to do some maintenance on that signage. The Genesis Group did a study and highlighted some speed limit recommendations. Not just recommendation, but they did an engineering study that highlighted speed limits along the entire corridor of 30A. That's included in your packet. And I want to really just let the board know that we want to go ahead and implement the replacement of the existing speed limit signage based off of that study. Really, this was just for information and discussion if you had any questions.
Any questions?
Are we keeping the speed limit the same, or are you going to change it?
The study actually does have a few minor speed limit changes. The most significant change that I noted off the study was that the 45 mile per hour zones that are right now appear to have changed to 40 mile per hour zones. The biggest benefit of the study is the structured stepping up and stepping down of the speed limit as you approach the intersections, residential areas. I mean, really, the signage is just in disrepair right now, and this gives us a mark to hit with the placement of the new signage that has been, engineered and designed.
Okay. So we're not making it all one speed limit
No,
on
ma'am.
38?
No, ma'am.
I heard that comment earlier, so, from somebody.
Not yet. Anymore.
Not yet, anyway, yeah.
If there are no questions on that one, I can move on.
Do we need a vote on that?
Okay.
So that you actually be here.
The next item I have on here is the Coastal Dune Lake Advisory Board vacancy. Miss Mary Lou Maris has expressed an interest in serving on the Coastal Dune Lake Advisory Board, and she meets the qualifications for the vacant seat. We request that the board appoint Mary Lou Maris to fill the vacancy on the Coastal Dune Lake Advisory Board.
So moved.
I've got a question before we go on with this. I'm not sure, I think we've asked before, is what is the responsibility of this board and what are their duties? And I know that from the minutes from back in 2011, there was a proposal to abolish the board or consolidate it with another board. Where do we stand on that?
Isn't
The
it?
board voted at that meeting not to abolish the.
No, they voted to have them look at to see about either consolidating it or abolishing it and bring back, and nothing's come back from what I could see.
They voted no. The vote was, I saw the vote. I've got the record right here.
Isn't
They
it
voted
talked
not
about
to
in the
abolish it.
comprehensive plan? Don't we talk about?
Commissioner, I actually don't have any information on that. I may have to get Mr. Billy McKee to come up and help with any of that information.
I think one of the things that needs to happen on the Coastal Dune Lake Board Advisory is I will be glad to take that over and coordinate better with it, and we'll come up with the action plans. But
What is
but
their responsibility?
they have done a number of things, and they also need to be in place when we submit for some restore funding for the Coastal Dune Lakes. We need this board in place when we apply for those funds. I think it just makes perfect sense to keep this board, especially since it's in District 5 and all the Coastal Dune Lakes are in District 5, and I work with these people daily. They do have a purpose. They have served a purpose. They work with the Choctaw Basin Alliance. They monitor the dune lakes. They've come up with a sign program for the dune lakes. They train people to take lake samples. There's a number of things, especially with funding, perhaps coming from the restore, to actually set up some coastal dune lake advisory boards and such. I think that it's very important that we keep it. And also, we're looking at submitting legislation to the state this next legislative term to get some special recognition for the coastal dune lakes in Walton County, since they only occur in, I think, 4 places in the world. So there's a lot of importance to this board.
First of all, I appreciate the willingness to serve on a board and provide services to Walton County. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate that. It's just that when I've looked back at what I've been trying to track is what do the various boards from the county, or the various committees that we've got out there, and I've met with at least one of the members of the board to say, can you advise me what is the role? And I couldn't get a real clear answer. I'd like to get a better understanding of what is it that this board expects them to do as an advisory board.
And what I'll do is I'll meet with them and I'll bring back that recommendation to the board.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You need to come to the podium.
Commissioner Chapman, right?
No,
Enfield.
I'm Chapman, he's Enfield.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Enfield, it's been so long, my glasses on here. I'd be delighted to answer some of those questions, if I may. I'm sorry, Susan Palladini, and I stand before you tonight as manager of the Coffee Nature Preserve. We are tucked away between Sandestin Resort and Topsail Hill Preserve State Park. I would love to share with you that the preserve is owned by the Coffee Land Trust. We're a 501c3 not-for-profit. It also owns Lake Fuller, which is the most western in the chain of these globally rare and imperiled coastal dune lakes. And the county has already given them that designation. My board asked me to come before you tonight to share a little with your board about the history. And we do go way back, and it's actually in our comprehensive plan. And it carried over from the old comprehensive plan into the new comprehensive plan and policy. C145 states that the county will partner with the Coastal Dune Lab Advisory Board to implement recommendations consistent with management plans and seek special legislative designations for protection of the coastal dune lakes, their tributaries, and outfalls. And this started way, way back a long time ago. And back in October of 2010, Walton County approved the visioning plan, and it mentions the coastal dune lakes in there. And this has been a lot of time and effort by planning. There's a management plan in place that took, many, many hours of volunteer planning to put together. And then in 2010, at the Walton County legislative delegation meeting here in this building, our state representative, Marty Cooley, went on record as offering her office resources to assist with establishing, a state designation. So we have a lot of history. The board has come a long, long way. And they are just priceless jewels, priceless jewels. The best article to this date was done in Emerald Coast magazine. They called it a string of pearls. Now, these people down here who live with these lakes day in, day out, they see them as jewels. They see them as treasures. And a wonderful book has just come out. This is the iconic photograph of the coastal dune lakes. Everybody who lives at the south end. The people here are passionate. So on behalf of the Coffee and Land Trust, I would like to present this board to you, Mr. Infield and Mr. Pridgeon. Those of you who don't get to see this on a daily basis, this is an absolutely phenomenal book. And I hope you will look at these photographs and see them as the gems and the priceless jewels that we think they are.
Mrs. Baldini, thank you very much for those comments, and I share your opinion. They are definite jewels for the coast. My question went to, I'm just not clear as to what the advisory board it was supposed to do, and I appreciate that Commissioner Meadows is going to bring back some information on that. So
Okay.
I share your view that they indeed are a very, very valuable asset of the county.
Okay.
Can I comment, Mr. Enfield? When we first started this board, we didn't have Billy McKee and our environmental people. So I think he's now doing some of the stuff that the board originally did. So I think, and thank you, Commissioner, to take a look at what the board can do now, education, getting this designation, maybe refocus on some other areas.
Yeah, I think, and that's the intent. That's the intent, is to go ahead and do that. Yeah.
Ms. Palladini, maybe you and your board can set up a time and set up an appointment with Mr. Enfield to come up and go over some of this with him. He's got plenty of time.
I'd be happy to read.
He may need educating a little bit.
Mr. Chairman, I would be delighted to meet with Mrs. Palladini anytime and with her board as well.
Also, too, the TDC, this is part of our eco-exploring, eco-tourism marketing, and I see the board kind of coordinating with the TDC on some of the marketing efforts. Is Jim Magby here? And Jim Magby is shaking his head yes. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie
I
Markell.
made a motion.
I have been to probably most of the Coastal Lake Advisory Board meetings for the past 7 years, with the exception of about 6. So I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot get done. I've seen a lot not get done. I think that one of the things that I see as a problem is the Coastal Lake Advisory Board really doesn't have any power, as other advisory boards do. It's never asked for an opinion on anything regarding Coastal Dune Lake and Coastal Dune Lake issues. And I guess I would ask you, would you consider making a decision or having a vote on something, a project, without talking to the Design Review Board and getting their opinion, or the Technical Review Board and getting their opinion, like the Ferris wheel in Sandestin? Okay, so that's one thing that I see has been a problem. I feel like it has been handcuffed by its reporting department, and they really aren't able to give suggestions or opinions without getting it approved first with that department. I see that as a problem. I've watched people on this board. I've watched good people come and go. Marcia Anderson has been on this board, I believe, since its inception, and she is extremely passionate. She has devoted her time to this, and I think this board deserves the respect that the other boards do. I think it's being underutilized, and I think it could, it's not informed about any lake issues that occur in this county, which I think is a travesty. I think it could serve as an oversight board. And let me just give you one example. If any property or project goes to building, planning, etc., variance, wants a variance, anything like that, and it is on a coastal dune lake or on the outfall, I feel like that property should be flagged, and the chair of the Coastal Dune Lake Advisory Board should be on the email train so that they are aware that something is going on. Let me just give you an example about that. Last year, year and a half ago, a swimming pool was built, requested to build on the Oyster Lake outfall, the Oyster Lake area that really doesn't need any more problems. But it went, concerned citizen that looks at it every day called on it, called and called and called and called, ignored by the Code Enforcement Board, and ultimately the swimming pool is now in the Coastal Dune Lake protection zone because somebody approved that within the building department. Now, if we had some kind of oversight, if we had the Coastal Dune Lake Advisory Board being notified when something like that's going on, I guarantee you that would not have happened. So I think it's being underutilized. I would like to see, with the building boom that is poised to explode in this county again, I don't think this is the time to take this board away. I think this is the time to refocus on this board, double down, figure out what you want it to do, see where it can be used like oversight on Coastal Dune Lake projects, and use that board efficiently rather than just minimizing it into a place where people on the board have low morale. Right now we've had Lynn Nesmith join the board. Mary Lou Maris is passionate about these lakes, and I understand there's another person that is willing to join this board who is also passionate. I think this is what we need. If we're going to hold these lakes up as something really special, we talk about it every year in the strategic plan and the goals for Walton County for as long as I can remember. If we're really going to try to protect them and really make them something special, I think we need a board like this. We probably need more. We probably need an environmental person on that board that can give that kind of technical information and have the someone from environmental there at every meeting. Because I know that in the last year or so, when I've been at that meeting, I have not seen environmental there. And that shows a lack of, in my opinion, a lack of respect to the people that sit on that board and a lack of commitment from Walton County.
Thank you. You want me to make a
question?
Yeah, I've made a motion to appoint Ms. Maris to the vacancy on the Coastal Dune Lake. I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is under tab I, OMB. Ms. Wanda Quimby is here to present this item on the funding for the 331 bridge, along with Mr. Mark Mustian from Neighbors Gibling.
This is the restructure of the bridge loan. The new loan will be for $25,191,482.26. It will be at 1.65%, and the Final payment scheduled for April 1st of 2018.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman?
One little thing in here too, you had Tony Craig listed as the attorney, somewhere in the paperwork. So just FYI, that need to be changed. Okay. Okay, good.
Mr. Chairman, if we could take just a couple-minute break in order to sign that paperwork so we can get it to the bank. We'd need the clerk, the chairman, and our attorney.
You want to take his question first? Is that a question about what we just did?
I didn't get that.
Yeah, I'll pay the 90
Did I understand this properly, and then the fact that this bond for the bridge is going to be paid off in 5 years?
We hope.
And therefore the sales tax can be reduced back down to where it was before in 5 years? Thank you.
That's what we hope.
We take a short 3-minute break, or 5 minutes, or how long it takes to sign the paper.
There is
This will be a very short break, so if you want to kind of stay in your seats.
Can you hold it that long, sir?
I'm sure it is. You got your, yeah, really. Well, that does sound good. Why don't you go get us some? Yeah, just bring a little picture up here. That does sound good.
clerk. Wait on the clerk. Let's come back to order. Ready, Kim? Is she ready? Is she ready? You ready? Okay. Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, good to be with you this evening. Got several items for your consideration. The first is just an update on the Love's travel stop and the progress we're making in Mossy Head. As you can see there, the contract's been fully executed. They have deposited the agreed to $50,000 earnest money with the title company. Public Works has the site virtually cleared. They've got a little bit of a few piles to clean up, but all in all, they showed great progress and a commitment to get the job done. All departments involved in this has worked very closely with the Loves folks, and they have been very pleased. We got an email from them the other day, and it was simply stated that we wished all our projects were in Walton County. So that's a tribute to all of them, everyone that's put time and effort into that, and the foresight this board had to move those initiatives forward. On a broader note, in the industrial park, we are moving forward with harvesting the timber. As we began clearing the project, we saw there was some value there. It's probably not a lot, but we thought it would be prudent to capture that while we could, so they'll be moving through that process. The second item for your consideration is the sign package for the Loves project. The approved covenants and restrictions for the Mossy Head Industrial Park allow you, as the Board of County Commissioners, to grant variance for signs on certain parcels within the industrial park. The Love site is one of those parcels, and the package that they've submitted does require your approval, as there are some areas there where it does not meet the standards set forth in the covenants and restrictions. We've not gone through and identified those because we knew there were several, but it's staff's recommendation that you approve their sign package as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is again dealing with the Mossy Head Industrial Park and the covenants and restrictions. We're requesting that due to the uniqueness of the development that we're looking forward to in the park, and perhaps the thought that the Land Development Code did not contemplate such development, that we add this language to be included in Section Y in the covenants, conditions, and restrictions. And that language would be, in the event these covenants, conditions, and restrictions as adopted and amended by the Walton County Board of County Commissioners conflict with any provisions of the Walton County Land Development Code, the provisions of this document shall supersede, take precedence, and govern. So staff recommends that we add that language to the covenants, conditions, and restrictions for the Mossy Head Industrial Park.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners. By virtue of approving that amendment, it's clear that your intent is to allow those documents to govern. We would further need to amend the PUD for the Mossy Head Industrial Park with similar language. So my next request would be for you to approve for staff to begin that process, to begin advertising, making those changes to the PUD. That'll have to go to the Planning Commission and back to this board for ultimate adoption. But your motion and approval would allow staff to begin that process.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item before you is regarding the tax increment financing district along the 331 corridor. As you recall, at the June 11th BCC meeting, you approved for staff to obtain a professional opinion regarding the impacts of the projected or proposed improvements to the 331 corridor and the impacts it would have on the property values. That report has been completed and it's been provided to you. In summary, the report states that the installation and implementation of water and sewer along that corridor will have a 20% positive impact on the property values. Now, while we have some other initiatives moving forward, that study focused primarily on the water and sewer. So we believe that that is a very conservative estimate of what the improvements in the 331 corridor will have on the property values. So to move the tax increment financing initiative forward, the next step would be to authorize staff to prepare a TIF ordinance for your consideration. That ordinance will establish the district boundaries. It will establish the base year for the TIF. It will establish the percentage of the ad valorem tax generated by the growth to be committed to the TIF fund and establish the initial improvements to be funded by the TIF revenue. Now, by your motion and vote tonight, we're not passing an ordinance. We're simply beginning the first process of the drafting an ordinance for your consideration. So the action we request is for you to authorize staff to prepare a TIF ordinance to bring back at a future date for your consideration.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners. The last item we have will take a few moments. We began a process a few months back of developing some design and development standards for the 331 corridor. You were presented a draft at your last meeting and asked to offer suggested language and changes to that. What you have in your package is the draft with those changes. If you'll look, we will move swiftly through those to determine which ones the board would like to have into a draft that we'll move forward for public comments. If you look, the red is the suggested changes, and we'll deal with each one of those. On lines 4 and 5, you'll see the words new and major redevelopment projects. That was to clarify that existing properties and businesses are not impacted by these standards. I want to make it clear that these will only be applied to new projects or major redevelopment projects, and major redevelopment projects are defined, I believe, as 50% more in value. Yes, ma'am.
New as, are you going to have a date in here?
The date of its adoption.
Okay. So something going in now would not.
That's correct.
But the date of adoption, then those would.
Right. In line 12, it was suggested that the southern boundary of the district extend down to the US 98. As written, it's to the north shore of Choctawhatchee Bay. Just to remind you that the southern portion of 331 is covered under the Scenic 98 standards. So unless there's a desire to lessen those standards, we'd recommend that we leave it as is.
I would leave it as is, but if you could include it in the district, because if the district has a certain look to it, and you go over the bay and then there's a different look, let's say that you decide to have street lamp poles of a certain design. I think that it should continue down to 98.
Well, the only issue I would see is there may be things that would be allowed in these standards that the Scenic 98 standards would not allow.
Well, and the Scenic 98 standards would apply. Would be the stricter, so they would apply. But I think just for consistency's sake, especially when we have a lot of people coming over the bridge and then,
That's certainly up to the board.
That's in the fact that the standards on scenic would only apply to that area south of the bridge, not north of the bridge, if it's incorporated in the whole thing.
Exactly. The stricter of the standards, because 98, 331 is the scenic corridor for the county, Yeah, it wouldn't apply to the rest of 331.
Okay.
So so we know, if we see a show of hands or some vote to say you want it as it is to stop north shore of the bay or include the southern portion of 331 from the 98 up to the south.
What Commissioner Meadows says is essentially the 98 standards extend to the south shore of the scenic, and they are significantly more stringent than what is in here. So I think this should stop at if that's the way y'all want to keep it, then this should stop at the north shore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that consensus to stop on the north shore?
Okay. For these standards.
For these standards, correct.
Yeah, for these standards.
Okay.
But would the south part be included in the TIF?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Two totally different
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we were all going to be
Well,
consistent.
there's not much left south of the bay
That's
that
true.
belong to the state, county.
So we want to get what we can get.
There are a couple of
A few.
parcels, and there's some redevelopment.
Okay, lines 21 and 22, under prohibited uses, it was suggested we add adult entertainment facilities and tattoo parlors. Consulted with council, and we have an existing ordinance that prohibits such activity along 331. Mr. Davis and I discussed it and believe that if we add it here, it will allow us to extend that through the 300-foot corridor on each side. Is that correct? So, just a consensus to add those.
Yes.
Okay.
What about,
There was some question about whether automobile dealerships would be allowed. As it is written, they are an allowable use. Along with that question was, could they be a conditional use? And they certainly could be if that's what the board desired, but as the document's written, vehicle sales are an allowable use. So is there any desire to change them to conditional? Okay.
Wait a minute.
Yes, sir.
Are we talking about allowing them to be there?
As it's written.
As it is.
As it's written, they are allowed.
Not making it a conditional.
That's
type
correct.
Right. That's good.
Yeah, so as it's written, they're like any other use. Okay. We were asked to, in line 48, we were asked to clarify corridor buffer setback. We simply eliminated that and added the language of 25-foot landscaped buffer setback, and that all other aspects of the Walton County Land Development Code shall govern parking requirements. Any issue with that language? Okay. In line 60, we were asked who director was. It was intended to be the planning director, but it was suggested we change that to the Board of County Commissioners. Staff are certainly fine with that if that's what the board wishes.
Where's that?
On line 60.
Okay.
I see nods. Okay, we will go with the board. And then in the line 62, where we talked about unfeasible, we eliminate the word unfeasible and add physically or practically impossible because of topographical or other site-specific constraints. We're certainly comfortable with that language. In line 80, we're talking about landscaping and the landscape buffer. The original language said no more than 10% of the buffer may be used for the display of merchandise. It was suggested that no area in the buffer be allowed to be used for display of merchandise. When we contemplated what that language should be, we were looking at things like automobile dealerships or equipment sales that would have some type of permanent display. And if we choose to leave it at any percent, I would suggest we add some language that talks about the permanence of those display areas so that it's not roll a table out there in the weekend. And that be no more than, we suggested 10, it could be 5, or it could be none. So whatever the board wishes.
Well, I think we ought to have that availability if it's a car dealership that they can showcase a particular vehicle, model year, or whatever, putting it right out in front. But it probably needs to be on some type of permanent pad or structure to avoid this being tearing up the grass or the buffer zone.
I agree.
And the pole, yeah, we had some discussion about whether they could put an automobile or a boat on a pole. I think we could probably strike that down as a sign. No poles, but permanent,
Permanent structure, yeah.
10%,
I'm fine with 10%.
10's fine.
okay?
Who's going to figure that out and enforce it?
Commissioner Chapman.
I'll do it.
Okay, good. You're going to be, okay.
He's
Can
going
we
to be
give him-
assigned police.
Can we give him a badge?
Absolutely.
Got one.
Yeah. So we will change that to no more than 10%, and it must be some type of permanent display area. Line 82, we're striking or near death and only allowing 15 days to replace those dead. Yes, ma'am?
Plants. I've had some reflection. We had a watershed meeting this morning with Okaloosa and Walton County where we talked about clean water for the Choctawhatchee Basin, clean water, drinking water as well as recreational water. And Miss Anita Page, I think she's in the audience somewhere, and I discussed after the meeting, God, there's only so much water. We keep on recycling it, but, none is being made anymore. And shouldn't we, when we look at landscaping, you've got an irrigation in here. And when I first saw it, I go down 331, from all the time heading this way, and there are sprinklers on with it pouring down rain. We have to have some way of being able to shut off, first of all, sprinklers, and I think they're called shielding or whatever. I think that should be some requirement that they just don't, water, even though it's reclaimed water, when it's not needed. And number two, I think we should, in our landscaping requirements, require plants that don't need a lot of water. That Zero-scape plants. I think that should be a requirement so that we don't use as much water watering, grass and plants, so that because we not only have to look at 5 years from now, but let's look out 50 years for our children and our grandchildren. Make sure that there's enough water available. So I'd like to see us look at zero-scaping.
What is zero-scaping? Give me an idea of what that plan is.
Zero.
Better not be a palm tree.
Xeric.
It ain't no palm tree.
It's Xeric. It's Xeric.
It's one that doesn't require a whole lot of, it's drought
It's pretty much native. It's pretty much native, what grows here and what doesn't need a whole lot of water.
What goes here, but no palm trees. I agree with you, sir. No palm trees.
Wait a minute.
Well,
Somebody wants
I don't know.
palm trees.
Somebody added palm trees.
I don't want no palm trees. Unless you
Well, how are you going to know?
All right, well, let's, if we came back to irrigation, are we going to prohibit irrigation? We're going to require irrigation, or it's going to be optional?
You're going to have irrigation.
You have to have irrigation, but I think there should be some regulation or criteria that should be shielded where, they make them that if it's the ground's wet, then they don't turn on.
Might I suggest that that's certainly a bigger problem than what this is going to be, that maybe we should look at that through, I don't know, his irrigation standards.
Well, you can get the water, you can get you can get rain gauges that measure it and they go off, or you can have them water only certain days of the week, like some people,
Yeah.
Right.
But if you have drought tolerant plants, then you don't need as much irrigation.
Right.
If we require, native and
Right.
zero-scaping plants to begin with, then you don't need as much water.
I agree.
That's covered in our LDC already.
Yeah, and I think those provisions are certainly being.
I think it should be reiterated in here.
Okay.
How are you going to know you're in Florida if there's no palm trees?
I don't know, man.
We got a pre-existing one on 331 just south of Rock Hill.
Yeah, but that was planted 25 years ago. It didn't just crop up.
So we're going to do away with palm trees?
Yes, ma'am.
We'll do away
Seriously?
with palm trees.
Seriously.
Yes.
It's not native to Northwest Florida.
They require a lot of water too.
Okay, line 83, do we want to allow 30 days or 15 days to replace dead?
15 days. You see the plant's dead, you pull it up.
Okay.
If you give them 15, they'll take 30. So if you give them 30, they're so 15.
Not rocket science.
And I'm assuming we have consensus to take palm trees out of line 101?
Yes, sir.
I think y'all ought to have palm trees.
If you flip over to line 134, we're talking about parking and vehicular landscaping of the vehicular parking areas. Staff suggested in line 134, no more than 20 parking spaces to be permitted in a continuous row without being interrupted by an interior planning area. It's been suggested we change that to 10.
You almost think 20's too much and 10's,
15 would be a perfect compromise.
15 would be a perfect compromise.
Yeah, you just, 10.
10 spots, and then another thing, that adds
Good.
to the expense.
That has to be-
It does, but I tell you what, it looks, and the parking lots are so much more shaded, and it looks so much better. You'd be surprised at what that between 10 and 20 does for the appearance of it, for the shade, and for the,
Would you go with 15?
yeah, I think 15 would work. I mean,
15?
15.
We like 15.
yeah.
All right, we're at 15. Thank you. And on lines 141, we're just cleaning up some language, and on 146, the same, we had a misspelled word. Yes, sir.
I got a question. I'm not sure I understand what 1 per 3,000 feet measured in a radial fashion means.
You've got one here. You measure 3,000 feet around it, and that's somewhat the protected zone for that sign.
So there can't be another sign then within,
Not another new billboard.
Then that radius.
And it's, if there's one there now, you
Right.
draw it, but it's going to be kind of like first come, first serve. First person that puts one up precludes other people from putting one up.
it's going to be at least a mile between each billboard then? Because you're talking about, if it's 3,000 foot radius, you got 3,000 north, 3,000 south, that's 6,000 feet, which,
No, you can have one at 3,000 feet.
Go from that sign, 3,000 feet radius.
There could be 3 within 6,000 feet.
Right. You could have one here, you could have one 3,000 feet, and then you could have a third one another 3,000 feet.
I thought we were going to do away with billboards.
So Commissioners, any other thoughts or changes or comments? If not, we will make those changes, and I'll ask you to tentatively approve that document with those changes, and then we will move forward to scheduling 2 public workshops, Mr. Chairman, if you'll.
Okay.
Somebody wants to...
So, Alan?
I had a question on this incremental financing district, TIF. Is this something like what they do for
Community redevelopment.
yeah, is that what this is? Where any increase in value, that increase is used for a specific purpose? And what is that purpose going to be for?
We'll identify that when we get to the ordinance. Most likely it will be for water sewer infrastructure or any other improvements.
Typically, what, public improvements like
Yes.
street lights,
Yeah, it
water,
could be.
sewer, sidewalks. You can do pretty much anything with it, can't you, as long as it's public?
As long as it's for the good and it's for the area where you're collecting the funds.
Okay, so these funds, this incremental tax money that you're going to be collecting and putting in a special pot for the increase in value due to the road going in, and
It's an anticipation of the 331 corridor being primarily a commercial district due to the 4-laning of the highway and the other.
and this is to maybe help with the infrastructure to go
That's
with the road? To enhance what
It's
the
to-
road is going to.
To support the ability for it to support the commercial uses that we anticipate coming.
Not the road itself, but the...
Yeah,
the
that's
development
coming from
around
the
it.
state.
Right.
It doesn't have to be all the tax over and above, it can be a percentage, it could be 100% or it could be 50% or whatever is decided.
So if any excess funds that are not spent in that designation, what happens to it?
Go back to
What they accumulate in an account.
the general fund.
Maybe as you prepare this document, you may want to address that question.
You got some You got some dates? Do you have
Yes,
some
I
dates?
do. August 26th at 5 o'clock at the courthouse in Definiak in the boardroom. September 5th at 5 o'clock at the Freeport Community Center.
Would you say those dates again, please?
August 26th at the courtroom, at the boardroom in Definiak at 5 p.m. September 5th at the Freeport Community Center at 5 p.m. I'm sorry?
Public hearings.
Public workshops for the public input on the standards that we just discussed. That's quite all right.
Do we need to vote on that?
Everybody got that? Everybody got that?
We got it.
Get it?
Do we need to vote on that?
Well, I would ask you to tentatively approve the standards as we've discussed them and with the changes, so that when we go to the public workshops, it will be a document that you have voted on and approved, and we will bring those recommended changes back to you for final approval.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, that was my last item, but I do want to give you just a brief update that on the condominium garbage. I just want the board to know that we've been working very close with Waste Management to come up with some numbers that we'll be presenting to you in fairly short order. We're not prepared to do that tonight, but we will have those ready for your review in the next few days, and hopefully we'll have something ready for you at your next board meeting for your consideration. So just want to make you aware of that. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Chairman, the next...
Ms. Harris?
My favorite subject, of course, is condominium garbage. And I've been coming back and forth about this for years and years. As a matter of fact, Lyle Ziegler came out right after my beach lawsuit because I was threatening to turn around and sue about the garbage. This is going to come as a shock to y'all. I want to thank Larry Jones. I'm so glad you appointed him as a special projects manager. Everybody may pass out up there. Pick yourself up. Of all of you on this board, including my representative, no one has ever bothered to come to Edgewater or any other condo that I know and look at what it takes for us to save the county money on garbage. I have 3 full-time employees. I pay 100% of their health, vision, and dental insurance. They do nothing but do garbage pulls. We have garbage chutes that go down into dumpsters. If the dumpster is full, you move it, you put another one there. If it fills, you move it and put another one. Then we purchased years ago a huge compactor, probably the biggest one they have for a commercial, for our kind of use. And so now my guys have trucks or four-wheelers that they have to pull the dumpsters up, put them in the compactor, and haul the dumpsters back to where they go. All we really wanted when this started was just for somebody to come and look, because they pick up my garbage only twice a week, and I compact it all. My thing is never full. As a matter of fact, when Dawn and Scott were running the show, before Scott sent me the email to file on Larry, I asked for people to come out and look at it, and no one ever came. I think if anybody ever asked for money for their campaign, when a subject like this comes up, y'all ought to make an effort to go to one of the projects. Hidden Dunes has more people than we do that manage the garbage. But last Saturday morning, I think Larry's cell phone rang at about 6:30 from me, because Waste Management is supposed to pick up our garbage every Friday. If they don't, and our dumpsters are full, when the garbage comes down the chute, it's all over the floor in the garbage room. So Saturday morning at 6:30, I had guys out there with shovels, shoveling garbage, because Waste Management didn't show up on Friday. They decided they'd show up on Saturday, pick up our compactor and take it off. So there was nowhere to even put the garbage. Within an hour after my phone call to Larry, he had my compactor delivered back. And an hour and a half later, Dominica was out there. And within 2 hours, I guess it was Dominica's boss from Waste Management was out there. So whatever work Larry has done on the garbage thing, he came and met with me. He looked at all my bills from 2012, 2013. He looked at what our average cost was compared to our weight. And at least, I think all of the condos now, at least we feel like somebody is interested in really what we do rather than all the garbage cans outside. And I just wanted to thank Larry.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next item has to do with the selection process for the next county administrator. I have several items I'm going to ask the board to give direction to staff on so we can proceed with this. The first item is that we received a report from the Florida Association of Counties on the three individuals that were selected to do that screening process. Mr. Hawley with FAC is here in the audience today, should you have any questions for him. They met on the 24th of July, and they did complete their action the day that they met, and a couple days later Mr. Hawley sent a memo to the county identifying 6 individuals that they selected that would be appropriate for interview. What I'd ask of the board tonight, unless you have questions, is that you would look at those 6 names, and you were also provided a list of all the applicants that applied for that position. If you want to add any to that list or take any away from that list, but that you would give direction to staff to contact the individuals you want to interview, and we would set those interviews up for the 26th of August, which is the Monday before the next board meeting.
Any questions?
I don't have any that I want to add to interview. I do have some concerns about 1 or 2, not after I've seen their background information, but, that's just me personally.
I got a couple concerns about a couple of them based upon the preliminary background that was conducted. Not sure that I care to take the time to talk with them.
I'm fine with interviewing all of them, but I'll go with whatever the board wants to do.
Well, I'll lead off. I did have a concern about one of the gentlemen spending money without board authorization. I believe that was in one of the background, I certainly want a county administrator, anybody who works for this county, when you're spending money at that level, it comes to the board. I had another concern about another gentleman who called the members of the board the enemy. I mean, the man works for the enemy. So,
and the only comment I would make about that is, with the internet and with the newspapers, you don't really know if what you're reading is the real story, is the whole story, or half the story. It's just hard to determine that from articles and stuff like that. So I don't know where you draw the line if
and I'm fine with, I guess, interviewing them all. I mean, Mr.
But I think you're right.
Something you would say?
Were there 2 that you didn't want to interview?
I have 2 that I just don't feel comfortable interviewing them. Based on the preliminary background, they would be somebody that I wouldn't care to have working for me. And if we need to name names, I'll name names.
Mr. Chapman, if you could tell us the ones that you want to interview, and then if anybody wants to add any to that. There's a list of 6 on that report.
Okay. Well, I propose then that we interview Mr. Jack Brown, Mr. Tony Gomillion.
Do you need this list?
I don't think so. Let me go make sure.
I've got them highlighted if you need it.
Mr. Jones.
Mr. Rayburn.
Rayburn, I think it is. His name, Mr. Rayburn.
That good with everybody?
I agree with those 4, but then I'll go with whatever the
Yeah, that works for me.
That's good.
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Mr. Intel?
I concur.
Okay.
Okay, so staff will contact those 4 individuals and set up appointments for them to be interviewed. We'd like to do the interviews in Defuniak so that we can do them fairly quickly. We've set aside the whole day for that, but if we could do that in one location, it makes it a lot quicker to do that way.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll come up there.
Also, I passed out earlier a proposed itinerary for the administrative candidates. Basically, we would have them come into the area, those that are out of town especially, but we'd offer it to all the candidates to put them up in a hotel the night prior so that they could start interviews at 8 o'clock in the morning. They would do one-on-one interview starting at 8 in the administration area, and would use legal and District 4 office as well, right that same area. At 12 o'clock, I propose we have a social in the boardroom over at the courthouse where anybody would be allowed to attend that, mingle with the candidates, get to know them a little bit, and then if we need to continue the interviews after that time period, we can tweak that schedule as it gets closer. But that would finish it off that afternoon, and then the following day on Tuesday at the regular board meeting, then you would make your selection as who your top candidate would be.
You did leave out the candidates being taken around by our department heads to take a tour of the county.
It's on there.
Yeah, I didn't mention it. You're right. Yeah, after the social and after the interview process, we would assign each of the directors as like a sponsor, take them in a vehicle and take them around the county and show them different facilities.
I just want to make sure the public's aware that they can attend this thing. This is not just for...
Yes, we'll notice it that the commissioners and the public would be invited to attend that.
At the 12 o'clock meeting.
And can we get, before we vote, how we're going to vote? Are we going to do it by, are we going to score them? Are we going to rank them? Are we going to, how we're going to do it?
We've done it 2 ways in the past. One was by point system. Like if you have 4 candidates, the top candidate gets 4 points on down. The other way is to score just you rank order them 1, 2, and 3.
Well, the last time we did it, it seemed like it went pretty smooth, and
that was the TDC selection with a point system.
So we just go 4, 3, 1, 2, 2, 1. Okay.
Okay. We'll prepare the score sheets.
So we would take the top candidate. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Which could be your number 3 candidate because.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, along with this schedule, we would be paying for the hotel rooms, mileage, and meals. I would be paying that. Okay. So the staff will move forward with that.
Mr. Jones doesn't get a hotel room. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is direction on the county attorney's position. At the last board meeting, we took action, and we now have a vacant position for a county attorney, whereas before we had somebody that was still in that position. So I'm just asking if the board wants the staff to take any kind of action to start advertising either for a county attorney or an RFQ for a firm to provide those services. We currently have Mr. Davis filling that position as the acting county attorney. Actually, his firm is filling that position. We don't need to take any action tonight if you want to just continue that arrangement. He does have an agreement with the county to provide those services. Or at some point, if you want to make that an offer of making him the county attorney, his firm the county attorney versus acting is what he is right now. So I'm just looking for direction of what the board would like to do.
I personally would like to do whatever it takes. I'll go out there again on another limb to keep Mr. Davis. I think he's one of the best attorneys this board has had since I have been even reporting, attending when I worked at the clerk's office on up to on the radio station. And so I say we do whatever we have to do to keep the man.
Oh, that sounds open.
Yeah, that was open-ended right there now.
Yeah,
We've spent a lot of money in the past on a lot of lawyers that have gotten us in one heck of a mess. We spent more money defending ourselves because of lawyers than...
I agree. I think we should save the money, save the time, go ahead and move him from acting to county attorney. I mean, he's there on nights, weekends, holidays. Every time I call him, he responds. Everything is done quickly, and I appreciate his response and getting things done. So that's what I'd like to see.
Do we want to discuss?
We need to find out what exactly we want Mr.
and
Davis
what
to
we're
do.
gonna pay and what he's wanting
he
to
wants,
accept.
I mean,
Well,
then this is not the time to get into this.
It's up to y'all, but
Yeah.
it would have to, currently, the contracts with my firm, we have a retainer, we bill against the retainer. If it exceeds the retainer, then you pay me the difference as well. Obviously, that has worked for me. Frankly, when I stepped into the interim position, I had no idea the size and scope of the job. I will be frank with you that having the land use attorney in place in July has helped turn me loose from land use, and I'm able to spend a more significant amount of time on other issues that need to be addressed. So I suspect, and I can't promise you, but I suspect that with that person in place, the retainer is going to be very close to what the charges are going to be each month. My only real concern about that being different is if we're trying to bring back into the county attorney's office any non-fact covered litigation. The big concern is we get a big piece of litigation that either we're going to take in-house that is going to eat up a lot of time. We try to avoid that. We try to not have that happen, but it does save the county money to pay me and now Sydney at a lesser hourly rate than we can contract for many of these things. So we're trying to bring those back in the house. And I pay taxes, and I'm trying to be conscious of what you pay as well, but I think in the long run we can save money that way. I really do.
And could you possibly dedicate some hours each day or each week to be in the legal office? And
I certainly can. I tried and was able during most of March, April, and May to spend most Tuesdays and Thursdays here. I had a little hiccup in July and June that I was not able to do that, but we should be back to that schedule where I can spend all day Tuesday and Thursday in that office without any problem.
Would it be better if you sort of work up a contract or schedule or what the board, before we approve anything and bring it back to the board for approval?
Take a look at it.
Would that be good with everybody?
See if we can still afford you.
I'll be happy to have a contract.
we didn't mean to make your head that
Bill's
big,
gonna- Bill can take care of it over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill has a shed.
I can work with
where he
Mr.
lives.
Davis on that, and we did identify some unique things with supervision of his office personnel that we've got to tweak a little bit, because as a contract, there's some issues with FRS on that.
Okay.
But we can bring that back.
Thank you.
Everybody good?
Can you bring it back to us at the next board meeting,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Davis? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, next we have Ms. Linda Sumlin with the Workforce Development Board.
Thank you for your time hearing our requests from each of you this evening. As outlined in the Workforce Accountability Act in 2012, there's some parameters regarding our expenditure in line items. We're required under the Workforce Accountability Act to spend 50% of our dollars for Workforce Investment Act and training dollars. This means that 50% of our dollars need to go to individuals to place them in education components. What we have learned historically is that all individuals don't need those training components. They're anxious to get to work very quickly. We're here tonight to ask you for consideration of reducing that 50% expenditure rate to 35%. The dollars that will be reduced in the 15% will still be spent on job seekers, but they'll be spent in different areas, i.e. just helping individuals with their resume, interviewing skills, something that we can rapidly do to get them placed in the business community. With unemployment rate being incredibly low in Walton County, the individuals are anxious to get to work, and I know the businesses are anxious to receive the job seekers. This is a request that we brought to you last year that was approved. The request needs to be considered by you for consideration of approval. Then we submit it to the state, to Workforce Florida for final approval. But this is our first step in the process to do that. I can say we were very successful with the reduction in the percentage rate, and we will still continue, as always, being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Well, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Summerlin has done a great job, and I'd make a motion to approve that request.
Second.
Have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much. And if I could just add, we appreciate your continued support, and the report that Mr. Jones presented earlier is exciting news for us, and we're on standby to help you find the job seekers to put in those jobs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I skipped over an item on the agenda, and that is to reappoint Dr. James Howell as the EMS Medical Director for 1 year. He was appointed by resolution in 2010 with no expiration date. However, every year we have to approve his appointment that shows what the compensation is, and he has to agree to that. So I'm asking you to approve that memorandum or that letter that does that.
Any questions?
So moved. Second.
Second. Have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, next we have Mr. Michael Flint. He's going to bring us a request for the Local Restore Committee as the chairman.
Good evening, Commissioners. One of my responsibilities as the Restore Act Committee Chair is to report to you from time to time, and this evening I have a request that was generated by a meeting on July the 31st. What I'm going to ask you for is consideration of a workshop, hopefully on the 21st of August. I believe that's probably not going to be possible, but a workshop to consider issuing an RFP to get consulting services in support of the Restore Act Committee. And the way this came about, I was asked to meet with Commissioner Meadows and Larry Jones, and was asked to speed up the process for getting our application complete. We decided to go ahead and try to speed up the process at the next meeting. That was the one on July the 31st. And at that meeting, and we were looking for a completion date of September 30th. At that meeting, we had presentations by some folks from the Office of Development and Engagement at the University of West Florida and the new director of the Haas Center. And they described the process that's going on elsewhere, and in some lively discussions that occurred after that, it was pointed out that most other counties have contracted for consultation services for the Restore Act committees based on the fact that 3% of the Restore Act money can be used for administrative services. And it was alleged in that meeting that that money could be spent ahead and then reimbursed after the Restore Act money comes. So that's where we are right now. The presentations are very informative, and the committee there voted and asked that I present to you the concept of seeing those presentations, listening to that, and considering the contracting of a consultant to support the Restore Act Committee. And that's where I stand this evening. Any questions?
Mr. Flint, do you have any indication that any Restore Act money is in the pipeline?
Well, you know, we're all expecting that, but there's no assurance at this point.
I guess the question then goes is, if we're going to be spending money on a consultant on something we don't even have a vision yet of what might be coming, I'm concerned that that might be premature at this time.
Okay, I will point out that the other counties have decided to prepare using the best professional services, and they are going out on the limb.
Yeah, I was at that meeting as well. The presentation is very informative, so it's almost like you have to see the presentation first and then kind of make a decision. But think about this, we're already in almost September. Even if we put out an RFP and, you know, it took the normal steps, we're looking at probably January 2014 before you get someone on board or give someone some phases of services and stuff. But it appears to be that this is such a complex process with so many different machinations going on and so much going on out there that you almost need somebody out there full-time, gathering the information, coming back, reporting it to you, telling you what's going on, what's happening in the legislature, so it's almost as if once you hear this presentation, you light kind of goes off and you think, maybe it's time that we start looking at someone to kind of guide us down that road, because it is going to be a long, complex road.
And I agree and disagree. Until we actually get some regulations from the federal government, which I heard this morning, now probably will be December. I believe it was supposed to be March. Until we actually know what we're dealing with, it's like putting on a blindfold and putting on throwing darts at a board. And we can certainly get a consultant, but he's not going to know anything at all. I mean, they can make guesses and assumptions and everything else. But until we actually get some rules to go by. I'm certainly amenable to listen to the presentation. How long is it? I mean,
I'm sure it could be tailored. We took about 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes.
It could probably be 20, 25 minutes, don't you think?
Could we do it at our next board meeting? Or either before or after? I mean, you've mentioned the 21st.
I guess the question is,
I'll be in Clearwater.
Can we get the person? Can we get the speaker?
I haven't talked to them about dates, but if you want to do it as a workshop or before the next board meeting or the board meeting after that, we could certainly try to arrange that.
I think the 21st, I think some people have signed up to go to a conference.
I'll be in Clearwater at the Gulf Consortium meeting on the Restore Act. So,
In view of Commissioner Commander's comments, too, about the fact that the regulations won't be coming up until December, I don't know if we need to rush right into this. So I'd like to see the opportunity for you to come back and tell us when people could meet and when we could get all of our board together to do something like that.
I will do that.
Before a board meeting, and then decide if we want to do an RFP, perhaps contemporaneous with when the regulations come out.
And I might have some more information after I get back from Clearwater next week.
And it's amazing, once you just start thinking about an RFP, and it moves you forward into the process, because some of these guys are, they've been out there and they've been maneuvering around, and they know a lot more than I knew, and I think any of the people on the board knew. So,
and perhaps I could add one more point. One of the strong points for having a consultant is capturing the cost, and we're already incurring costs, engineering, getting ready for our county projects, capturing the cost in a manner that will assure that we can get reimbursed when the money starts flowing. And yes, we're all assuming the money is going to flow.
Let me speak to that. That was something, frankly, I learned at this meeting. I did not know it was available through the Restore Act, that the county could actually document and capture costs associated with receiving the funds. So we met with Louis Savella, and I met with Wanda Quimby right after the meeting, and we have developed, the first thing we've developed is essentially a time and project sheet for all the employees who might touch anything to do with Restore Act, to start keeping up with their time and
travel expenses and hotel rooms and all that kind of thing.
Anything they touch that has to do with Restore Act. So Mr. Flynn that was a wonderful result of that meeting. We've started, actually, that process is now in place, and the timesheets have been sent out, including my timesheets. So it's an important part of the process that, frankly, I did not know about. It was a nice surprise.
And can we go back and recap like my time since I started?
Yes.
And that's been,
Yes, ma'am. The question becomes how we do that, but I think we've got a process that we're going to work with y'all on that.
Yeah, I think you just.
Okay, so I shall try to arrange a presentation for your next meeting, or perhaps the one after that, before the regular commission meeting, and then we can address the possibility of an RFP. Is that the board's pleasure?
Yeah.
I think that's not what you said, Bill.
Well, if you've got the people lined up available to come to the board meeting, but I think at that point in time we can discuss whether we want to jump to an RFP or we want to wait to issue the RFP when the regulations come out. I think that's a consideration we can make at that time.
Sure. I didn't mean to say do it at that time, but consider it at that time, and what the timing might be.
I think, listen to the presentation and then mull it over and then come back and talk about it, when the people aren't here.
Sure.
So that'll be the 26th?
27th?
27th, we have a executive session.
At 8.
It's early, I'm sorry.
I might as well just move up there, I guess.
I told you I'll
Oh,
rent
that's
you.
right. Chapman has a shed, thank you.
I told you before, I'll rent you a bedroom, but it's going to be,
Perhaps it would be appropriate for me to work with Mr. Demers to find the proper date and get that on your calendar.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, that'd be fine. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
TDC, yes, ma'am.
Can I just make one comment about that, because I was at that meeting too. I think what struck me about that meeting was the members of the committee members of that Restore Act started, because of this presentation, started to feel the full weight of what they have been asked to do. And it was incredibly informative, and all I kept thinking of it was, how come the rest of the commissioners aren't here? Because it puts so many things in perspective, and I realized what a complex process this is all going to be. But for those people that were appointed by you guys, they are starting to feel the real weight of what you have asked them to do. It is incredibly complex, and I think they need some expertise to help guide them make the decisions.
Mr. Bagby?
one other issue as he comes up, are we going to have to put this in the budget? There's budget consideration here too.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Jim Bagby, TDC Executive Director. I'll go ahead and let Brad start out, and then I'll wrap up.
Thank you, Mr. Bagby. Thank you, Commissioners. First thing I wanted to bring for you today is back at your June meeting, you tasked the TDC, working with county admin and different groups, to go out for an RFP for title services for our Walton County Federal Shore Protection Project, which from henceforth will be named the Walton County Hurricane and Storm Damage Reduction Project. That's the official name, because I'm going to give some congratulations news later for some good news that we got in a quick update. But when we went out for these title services, we did reach out locally. Purchasing sent it out to 29 title agencies locally, but unfortunately we only received one response, and it wasn't a local firm. However, the American Government Services out of Tampa, they do have experience in this type of work. They work with Florida DEP, Florida Department of Transportation, different state parks groups here in Florida. They've got a long-standing relationship in how to do these title searches for us. It's going to be about 960 title searches plus or minus that they're going to have to complete in just about 120 days. It's the calendar time, so it's going to be a tight time frame. We took this to the TDC this morning, and they recommended that the BCC award this RFP to the American Government Services at a cost of $450 per title so that we can move forward. $450 per title.
It's not on the agenda. Can we vote on it? Was it on the agenda? Okay. All I see on my screen is updates, so, okay.
It's on the agenda.
All right. Okay, thank you, sir. I'm looking.
Item 130318.
Gotcha, okay.
Any questions?
Motion to approve. Second.
Have a motion to say all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And if you would just allow me a couple minutes, I do want to give some good news. I know that we notified you on July 16th about a big congratulations as far as beach nourishment, especially the Federal Beach Nourishment Project, in that we received a favorable Chief's report from the Chief of Engineers for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in Washington, D.C. And just to put that in perspective of what that means is, three of you, with me and with Don Malterno at the time, attended the Civil Works Review Board. And if you remember at that time, that's when we gave our pitch. The Mobile District gave our pitch saying this project is important. If you remember, they were sent back to do a little bit more homework to get it approved, but once it left that group, the Civil Works Review Board, it was going to the Chief of Engineers. Well, from that time, it took some effort, some modifications, and some changes as far as the paperwork, but the project stayed the same, and it was approved by the Chief of Engineers. So the two last steps to be conducted on the feasibility study, if you think the project has reconnaissance study, feasibility study, engineering design, construction monitoring. So moving from that second phase feasibility study to engineering and design needs two steps. First is final approval by the administration, which is currently undergoing, being undertaken by the Office of Management and Budget and the Assistant Secretary of the Army. So that's step one. Step two is working with Congress to get the project authorized. We're working very closely with our congressional representatives, with Marlowe & Company, our federal lobbying firm, to get that done. Early information we're getting is that if the Senate bill that's already been passed was taken up tomorrow as the bill, it would be authorized.
The House bill has yet to be released. It won't be until after the August recess. But the early information that we're hearing is that it is going to have a good possibility that if you have that favorable Chiefs report, that it will have a pathway to authorization, which will be huge. There's very few projects that are moving forward. So that's really, really good news. And it leads into the third step, which is a preliminary engineering and design, which is now underway. This title search work is one of the big pieces that the local sponsor has to do, that Walton County has to do. And that's the real estate piece. We have to identify all the parcels, who owns them, and then get an easement for construction. It's a huge step, sounds very simple, but it's about 20 different steps that we'll be working on, working right now to finalize that easement language. And then before we would ever ask for an easement, we'll follow the same process we did the last time. We'll have public workshops, public meetings, so that we can educate people on what this project is and what this project isn't. If you remember, it worked fairly well for Western Walton County, especially over the whole, when you're looking at over 250 easements and we had challenges with 4. It's a pretty strong effort that we think we can model this project after. But we know there's going to be challenges that we can work through. Before we get to that step is another piece of what I think will be good news, but it's something that we wanted to make sure the public, especially the residents and visitors, are aware of, and that is surveying work. The Corps of Engineers is responsible for the surveying and the engineering and the design aspect. They expect to start the surveying later this month. They're surveying roughly every 200 feet. So when you're surveying 18.8 miles, that's a lot of survey lines. So they're going to be out on the beach. They're going to have a boat offshore measuring the beach changes. But that's something that our residents are now going to see physically happen, which I think is great news. And we're going to be working with our local press agencies and different groups to get that information out. Once we get that information back, we'll produce plans and drawings so that we can then have the workshops and show people how this project is going to benefit them and how it's going to benefit Walton County as a whole. So I just wanted to let you all know kind of what the next couple of steps are going to be. We hope and expect to have those plans and the different drawings back to start having these workshops in December. If you take that 120-day window for the title search, estimating that we'll start that work in the beginning of September, that would also be finishing up in January. So we look like everything is going to be coming right online at the right time so that we'll have about 12 months really to pursue these easements and try to get this project nailed down ready for construction. So I appreciate your time. Be happy to answer any questions. But we're right on task. We've got great partners with the Corps of Engineers and then also with our consultants and the TDC staff.
And are we going to have all these on the county website so that Lewis can announce the fact that there will be surveyors out there and this will happen and that will happen? Okay.
Yes, and Travis Curry at the TDC has already started sending some of the information out, and we'll make sure that it's posted. And also we'll be creating graphics that go on we can definitely link from the county website like we did last time at the Protect Walton County Beaches site. It'll be a huge public relations marketing effort to make sure that people know what the project is and, more importantly, what the project isn't.
Thanks.
Thanks, Brad. You're welcome.
Thank you, Brad, and great job. Just a couple of items to update you on, Commissioners. The bed tax numbers for June are in. We were up 9.15%, so a little over 9.9% for the month, which year-to-date we're up over 11%. So I will also let you know that June was the largest bed tax collection month the county has ever experienced, just shy of $4 million. And we think July may even be higher than that, so we're hoping. As Brad mentioned, the Tourist Development Council did meet today, and they voted on several items. You will see those in 2 weeks. We are, as a management process and staff process, we're getting out of we pass it in the morning, we bring it to you at night, and we don't allow the TDC any chances to provide their input. So they gave us their input this morning. We will go back, and we will bring that input to you and their recommendations to you in 2 weeks. Other than that, absent any questions, that's all we have tonight, sir.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Davis?
Thank you, Commissioners. The first item I have is a request for you to review a draft ordinance regarding our Chapter 4 of the Walton County Code to essentially amend Article 2 and to add a Article 3. The additional Article 3, would deal with the collection of money at intersections, essentially, and there's a procedure in there and some exemptions and some also prohibitions in the ordinance against for locations or places where we can't do this. All I'm asking you to do tonight is to receive the ordinance, and then in the next 7 days, give me comments and suggestions and changes to the proposed ordinance, and that's why it's on the agenda tonight.
Mark, on page 5 of that document,
Yes.
Under application, section B, I think there's a typo there. It says it may be amended at least 10, and you got parentheses 15 days.
Yes, sir.
And I think it needs to be, is it 10 days or 15 days?
I think it was going to be 15, yes, sir.
I think it's going to be 15.
Thank you. But if you'll just send me comments, I'll get a new draft and propose for our public hearing. Thank you. Next item I have, Commissioners, is a lease for your approval. It's a 4-year lease from Regional Utilities for the District 5 Commissioner's Office. We've been working on this lease for a couple of months and now have it ready for your approval.
How much they charging us?
$2,000 a month. Yes.
$2,000 a month. However, it is 9,000 square feet, so that's a pretty good deal. But also, too, remember that IFAS has a space in there. I don't know if they pay for it or not.
I am checking on that. I don't know that they do.
IFAS has a space in there. Master Gardeners, the Friends of 30A have an office in there that Vivian has. We have a public meeting space in that anyone can use once we get the air conditioner fixed. And, of course, we have the Commissioner's office, and there's a 2-bedroom apartment upstairs, which they said we could lease out. We could lease out if we wanted to. So it's a huge space. So we could actually probably make some money on it if we really worked on it.
Mr. Davis, I noticed at the bottom it said that it's $2,000, but it could be paid in kind services, which is my understanding the way it's been done in the past by taking care of all the maintenance, that it's been equivalent to what that is. Is that would continue to be using in-kind services to?
We can't, assuming they agree that can be done.
Number 4.
But I suspect they're going to want the $2,000 per month.
Also, too, it's we're responsible for the routine maintenance, but the front office did flood during the monsoon,
right.
And it was about 1 inch came in the front. So I think we need to add in there flood damage and hurricane damage would not be something we would have to deal with.
So flood and hurricane damage, and we'll define what routine is. And if you want to go ahead and approve it with those changes or wait till the next meeting, it's totally up to you guys.
Did they put a deadline?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am. So I'll bring it
It's
back.
up to you guys.
Sure. The next item is finally, the last draft of the agreement between ourselves, the county, and Mr. Bagby. And again, I apologize to the commission for this taking so long, but we have vetted this through gosh knows how many human resources types of attorneys, but it is now approved and vetted and ready to go.
Is there any blaring things?
No, ma'am. The question, and the hard question was, Mr. Bagby has his own insurance, and how we can reimburse him for a portion of what is normally paid to a county employee. And Mr. Enfield had a suggestion, and we ran that through, and what's in here now is acceptable to everyone.
Okay. Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners. And the last item is we have drafted an agreement for your consideration with the Boys and Girls Club of the Emerald Coast for us to maintain their multi-purpose fields, and in return, they have offered to allow us to use those fields. There's a projected use at Exhibit B for the county's use of those fields for our recreation department, and I believe Mr. Supple's here to answer any questions you might have about it.
Brad or Mr. Supple, I got a question. One of them come forward.
Mr. Simples.
All right. How many parks do we maintain, either for the city of Freeport, Defuniak, or anybody else in the world?
I maintain the city of Freeport's grounds.
Brad?
Don't we do their pool too? We maintain their pool.
We
Freeport
contribute
pool.
to the pool.
We give them money to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm alluding to is that we have a lot of parks, rec areas, which is great. I like it. But then again, we are tasking our staff to maintain them, and whether or not we got the appropriate amount of staff and equipment to keep them up in an acceptable manner. And I guess that's to you, Brad.
Well, it really is the pros and cons is what we had to weigh out here, and we are exploding down here as far as soccer is concerned, and we don't have the space to hold them, and it's just wearing and tearing our fields apart, and baseball's having to be pushed to the side, and football's having to be pushed to the side, so it's really, I mean, it's a no-brainer. We got to have the space, and that's why we've done it. We're already down here cutting the fields anyway, so it would be a matter of a couple of hours.
Well, I understand that, but I just want to make sure that we got it adequately funded with equipment and personnel to keep up with this stuff. I mean, we keep overloading respective divisions throughout the county, something's going to go slack. And I just want to get your intake on that. You may not want to make any statement right now, but
right. Well, I mean, in the agreement, it's something that we can drop at any time if we feel like we can't handle it, but I feel like we could.
This has just been a godsend. I mean, it couldn't have happened at a better time. We've got people, you know, really hundreds of kids. What, 700 soccer kids or something?
Brad does the maintenance, and my department does the actual programs. But this fall at Helen McCall, we would have in excess of 700 kids on 3 baseball fields and 2 utility football fields.
And then we get complaints from the parents that the fields are torn up, and we go, well, you know. So I mean, this is a first-class facility, isn't it? You said you've toured it.
Right here. It's fantastic. Yeah. And I think once we move soccer out there, which this fall we'll have around 40 soccer teams here in South Walton, that the wear and tear that will ease up on Helen McCall will actually help some with the money that's being spent out there. And, you know, I mean, it's going to cost a little bit more, but gosh,
I think the benefit, until we decide what we're going to do about a sports complex.
I met with the CEO, Shervin Raza, last week, and they're more excited than we are. He even said, I have office space if you guys need office space. We have storage, whatever you need.
Well, don't think that I'm trying to.
No, we talked about that at length, you know, to make sure.
No, we don't think that, Bill. Huh? We don't think.
We wanted to make sure that we got a good. We wanted to make sure that we got a good deal. I think
right, and I think we did get a good deal. I just want to make sure we can maintain.
Projected use date was something I just put out there, but he's aware we're probably going to use it more.
Plus, they have 2 indoor. Don't they have
2 indoor
regulation basketball courts indoor?
And they want us out there. Their club membership now is around 68.
That's your motion?
That's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks for y'all's work on this, because I know that you guys did a lot of work on it.
Mr. Chairman, next we have 2 citizens that have asked to speak. First up will be Mr. Chester Carter, and we'd like to remind the citizens when they come up during the public comment time that keep your comments to about 5 minutes if you can. We will run the timer so that you can be reminded.
Thank you for allowing public comment. I want to be very brief and specific to the adopted July 8th amended and restated final resolution for fire rescue services. My point is that information combined with what was mailed out to tax-paying citizens was contrary to what was presented July the 23rd. Specifically, Section 4, Paragraph E, which allows the lanyard to go to $150 per residential dwelling, as opposed to the agreed on $75, and also Section 3, 4B, which puts a cap on 640 acres for the 7 cent per acre assessment. Well, that advantages the big landowner, but disadvantages the small landowner. And I cannot find in the adopted July the 8th, 6th resolution, anything that alluded to the 640 acre cap. That was a surprise. After the July meeting, the last commission meeting, July the 23rd, where the adopted resolution read that there would be a 640 acre cap, and there would be the land yap for the commission to go from the $75, which I thought I, as a citizen, and a lot of other people understood that would be the parameter, to now we can go to $150 without any further discussion. So in my opinion, I'd like for you to consider, and again, I want to be very brief, and I don't want to get into a long-winded conversation here, but I would like for you to consider these issues as a potential violation of the Sunshine Law. As a citizen, I was ambushed by it, and if I was, then possibly others were. So all I have done to follow up on this, other than to come to this meeting and be very brief and specific, is I've asked Representative Coley and Senator Gates to request an opinion from Attorney General Pam Bondi. So we'll see how that checks out, and I feel like I've done my civic duty to report what I think is a possible violation of the Sunshine Law. And we, as honest, ad valorem tax-paying citizens, we just want to be up to speed. So that's the extent of my comment, and I appreciate you hearing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, next we have Ms. Sherry Judkins.
Thanks for allowing me the time to speak. I wanted to make note that I actually was on the agenda twice, so 5 minutes each. I was under policies and priorities. First, I'd like the board to know that I feel like I'm being blocked from getting on the agenda. I don't know if it's just me or, I don't want to come up here and complain to you guys, but I really have no other choice. I try to work through the departments, and I feel like I'm not being treated fairly or told the truth. So that's why I get on the agenda, to come see you guys. The last time I wanted to get on the agenda, I was blocked because they said the issue had already been brought forward. But my problem was the issue was never resolved. And, it was code enforcement. Another thing that I was before you for 2 months ago is the refund of the $1,800 that the county was supposed to give me back. And after several emails, and about 2 weeks later, I did receive $900 of it. And ever since then, I've been sent to so many different people trying to get the rest of my money, and I think that I've even sent all of you commissioners copies of my request to try to help me get that money. And I still haven't received that money. I mean, I've had several different people work on this, and I just keep getting pushed from one person to another to another. And again, I don't know if I'm just being treated this way or if this is the way that our financial department's being ran now. So on that one, I'm asking again that the board, somebody, figure out what I'm supposed to do to get my money back.
And you are owed how much?
Right now it's $450, and then there's another $450 sitting in another pot.
It says it goes out tomorrow.
Yeah, let me catch her up, and I'm sorry, I probably should have called her, and I just didn't. She asked me to check into it. The check is going out tomorrow. There was a question about the half of it. I got it resolved. Mr. Ockford talked to his folks. We got it resolved, and the check should go out tomorrow, frankly. And I should have called her, and I just didn't. Or emailed you and let you know. But we got the question resolved, and it should go out tomorrow, as I understand it, on Friday or on Wednesday.
On Friday. Yeah, checks go out on Friday. Yeah.
And I appreciate that, but I think that's an awful long time that I had to wait and what I had to go through to get that money. I don't think it's right. And then the priorities that I'm on here for is, I've been asking for the code to be enforced on, a certain business over in my area, and, just the codes in general that need to be enforced. And, I'm being told that, we need a business license. A couple times I've been before the board, or I've emailed back and forth, and I'm being told, well, we need a business license, we need a business license. I tried to get on the agenda for that, actually, but I was, told that I can't get on there because you've already directed somebody to look into that. I just don't see where we need a business license to enforce the code. Why can't we enforce the code the way that it's written? And I need Mr. Davis to come back up here, for some guidance to the board, because the last time I was here, they acted like, we got to follow the Florida statutes and we need a county ordinance. Do we not have a county ordinance that allows us to enforce the written codes?
Yes, ma'am.
We do have one? Okay, then I don't understand why I can't get the codes. I'm not asking for anything out of the unusual. I just want what's written on the books. I've been fighting one specific business for almost 3 years. And, that business has been written up at least 4 times in writing. They've been given at least 15 verbal warnings to stop doing the things that they do. And they just turn around and do something else and something else and something else. Mr. Infeld, I thought that you were even in agreement with me the last time I was here, that I sent some pictures showing you, all of you, where they're parking their trucks out in the front, clearly using them as advertisement. And I also sent from the book. I mean, that was just plain and simple. But, and he was told to stop doing that. And then they just don't enforce it. I'd like to enter these pictures into evidence.
We're not we can make them part of the record, but there's no evidentiary value one way or the other.
I just want you to look at them. And some of the dates, and this is still going on today. It's like when I want the code enforced, and these same codes are being enforced on other businesses, so I don't see why I'm being singled out. I don't see why, I'm the bad guy because I complain. I don't see why I have to complain, because that business is on the scenic corridor, and the scenic corridor is not complaint driven, so code enforcement has the authority to enforce the codes, but they're not enforcing them. And the more they tell this business to stop doing what they're doing, the worse he gets, and they just don't do anything about it. So I'm asking this board to help me get something done, because I'm being harassed. It's your job to protect the citizens of Walton County, and in me having to complain about this, which I shouldn't have to, I'm being harassed by it, and it's not right. It's not fair. This affects my business. This business being allowed to do what they're doing and violate the code, and I'm getting no help from anybody.
And just so the commissioners know, this particular business and this particular complaint is scheduled for a code enforcement hearing, and I want to say it's this month, but it's
and
this
they
month.
also,
I don't know off the top of my head. But
and last time they also did send a letter to this group telling them exactly what they could and could not do.
Okay, well, and you guys saying that, I was just told last week when I asked for an update, because he was finally given a notice of violation about his uses. And right after that, he puts up on his billboard or on his scenic highway sign that he now, rents the boats and the pontoon boats and the four-wheeler things, the golf carts. And that's not allowed in Coastal Center, and that's why he was given the violation. Well, so then he advertised that he does that.
One thing, I talked to him, and I asked him about that. And he said that he advertises it on his sign but he has an alternate location where he has the golf carts, and he has an alternate location where he has the boats. So they go into his office and rent, but they have to go somewhere else to pick them up. So he's got it on his sign, and this was my communication with him, because I talked to him about all of this.
Do you not see golf carts in that picture? And do you actually, how much are you guys going to let this guy keep bending the rules?
The golf cart in the picture is, let's see, October the 6th. Now, I talked to him about a month ago, and he had gotten the letter from the county, and I went over everything with him, and he told me, I'm not renting boats on site, they're off site. I got another space for him, and he said, golf carts, I understand. So he took the golf carts, he said off site, and I can't remember what else was in there. So if anything has been, if there's a photo of him doing this after our meeting, which was, or when he got the letter, then, he's still doing it. But
I can send you many, many everyday photos. That's what I mean. He says he came before the board the last time and told you they're not doing that. And then after, he gets his notice of violation, he sticks it up there and advertises it right there on the scenic corridor. And you act like, when I complained about that, they said, well, he has freedom of speech. That's what I mean. They just keep twisting and turning every rule they can to allow this guy to get away with what he's doing. So, what if somebody wants to?
As long as he doesn't have these things on site, which is I think the rule, the code is that he doesn't have them on site, in my opinion, he can advertise them. If somebody goes into his office and says, I want a boat, he says, you got to go down the street to get it. See, I don't see a problem with that.
And so what if somebody starts, advertising things that we don't want up on the highway, strippers, whatever?
Well, you can't have that's against the code, because you can't.
That's against the code, though, Cindy. That's what I mean. They're not allowed to on Coastal Center, they're not allowed to have those uses, and you're allowing to have them. They're not allowed to display them. You're going to get some pictures presented tonight showing you it's still happening.
He doesn't have them on site, though.
He does.
And if you've got photos of that, but if that's what, and there are nuances to every regulation, but as long as somebody doesn't have it on their site, but if he does, then he's in, and he's going to the Code Enforcement Board. So, and Wayne,
but I asked about that, and they said that they're giving him another 30 days.
Wayne is behind you. He can.
Mr. Dice. Mr. Dice.
Can I comment while he's coming up? And we cite them, and code goes out and cites them, and they're gone, and they do it again. We can't have somebody sitting there 24 hours a day, and we can't shut down a business. Now, we can take them to the code board time after time after time and fine them, but, we can't shut their business down or...
Well, if they're not doing anything,
if we can keep jacking up the fine.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just address a couple of questions that Sherry had, a couple of the comments. First of all, about the vehicles with advertising on them, I will tell you that's problematic wherever you go, because what you have to prove is their intent is to advertise. We see cars, a Walmart truck, for example, it goes up and down the highway. They're advertising Walmart all day long, every day. Many times it's a judgment call whether their intent is to advertise, or are they just parking their vehicle there as their means of transportation. That is problematic. We will look into that, and we have several people on the scenic corridor which we have to, from time to time, tell them to move their trailer. You can't park your truck in backwards. There's a lot of, because of signs on the back of the truck. There's a lot of things that we do with that. Now, when we see that, we ask them to move it. But that is an area of the regulations that is very problematic, because it puts our code guys in the position of trying to determine the intent of the vehicle being parked there. Is it being parked there for advertisement, or is it being parked there just because that's a parking place and that's for transportation? As far as the signage, we have received some complaints about them advertising, as Commissioner Meadows mentioned, uses that aren't allowed there, but they're advertising there. The problem with that is that we don't regulate the content of the sign. We regulate the size, the height, so forth, but we don't regulate what a sign can say. That's obviously a constitutional issue which we cannot get involved in. Now, if the sign has some kind of obscenity, then that falls into a whole other category beyond the Land Development Code. That's some of the obscenity laws. But as far as the land development code, we can't regulate the content of the advertisement. We can only regulate the height, the size, how it's lit, those things like that. I have had many discussions with Coastal Cruisers, and they are looking for an alternative site. They said they have one where they want to have their golf carts in an area that is permitted, and then so there would be no golf carts on this property whatsoever. And so I believe that is being addressed. I've been by there a couple times. I've not seen golf carts there when I go by there. Again, we're not there 24/7, so I can't guarantee you there's never been a golf cart there in the past 3 weeks. But I know that I had a very frank discussion with Coastal Cruises and said, this has got to stop, and you need to find a solution because this is the end of the road. So, so I think they have found a solution from what I understand, and so that will be solved as far as that goes. But again, the content of the signs, the pontoon boats, I question him about that. That it sounds like he's sort of an intermediary where he will set up the lease of the pontoon boat, and they actually go somewhere else and get it. So they're not housing pontoon boats on their property, and same thing with the golf carts.
What is the maximum, not only for this individual, instance, but what is the maximum fine that we can do to people who keep on doing the same thing over and over and over?
It varies. Each offense is a whole separate process. So if we have one offense one day, that's one, and the second one's a different one. So many times on these issues like this, it's a series of things. We have to, as the state statute requires, we have to give them the ability to comply, which is usually 2 to 3 weeks, and those kind of issues like that. So, but in this case, I believe, and I hope this is going to be solved very, very shortly. I believe they are scheduled for the code board, so that will put some complete resolution to it when that happens.
All right, well, again, I was told they were not scheduled and they were given another 30 days to work something out, and I think you just opened Pandora's box if you're going to allow people to advertise things out there on their signs that they don't sell. And as far as him having those golf carts on there, they're on there. They're out there every day being displayed, and you're going to be getting some pictures of it tonight. I'll send you emails when I get back to my house. Because I'm not standing up here lying to you, that it's out there, it's happening every day. And this guy just continues to keep on getting away. I mean, for 3 years, nobody's did anything. And I'm just not buying it that, we can't enforce the code. They always find a way not to stop what's going on over there when they're enforcing it on other businesses, and it's not right. And I come to you guys for answers, and I just don't get any.
I think we've given you some answers. I mean, we've told you that we can't restrict the lingo on the sign. If you're selling a condo, the condo's not there, but you've got a sign that says condo. We're selling a condo. It's not right on site, but you're going to go in that office and go in there and you're going to go look at that condo. We can't tell people that, well, you can't put that on there because the condo's not exactly.
You know how much twisting and turning it had to come up with that concept right there? I mean, everybody's going to start doing this now.
Well, and that's if it's legal, then everybody can do it. I mean, you can have signs out that say, we have a tour to Manatee Springs, but you got to go in and sign up, and you go to Manatee Springs. So we just can't get down in the weeds with every little sign and thing. We can tell the people they can't have it out on the roadway. They can't have it on their property. If they do, they will be enforced on. We have to go through due process. But, at some point...
But for 2 years, though, Cindy, he's put things out up in the parking lot, on the right-of-way.
But we've contacted him. He's come to see me. I've talked to him. I've talked to you. They're going to code board. So, it's on its way to being resolved. So if it was going on for the past 2 years, it's not going to happen on our watch.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Meadows?
Yes. I had, let's see, with the number of people that we have coming down here, and I'd like to put a sidewalk on every north-south road so that people didn't have to walk in the road, because, I mean, it really has gotten bad. And so I looked at sidewalk funds. We do have a little bit of money in the sidewalk funds. I'd like to use it to put a sidewalk on South Holiday Road, which would take everybody, off that busy road and put them on a sidewalk and run it all the way down to 98. That one, and San Juan is another road that a lot of people walk down to go to some beach walkovers. And like I said, there's probably 30, 40 roads that need sidewalks. But I would like to, and I talked to Public Works about it. They looked at the right-of-way. They said the right-of-way is there on South Holiday Road. Ironically, half the road is mine and the other half is in Sarah Commander's district. So I don't know which side of the road the sidewalk is. Whichever one is the best.
We'll put it in the middle.
We'll put it, yeah. And so they looked at that. The right-of-way is there. They ran some cost estimates. The right-of-way is there for San Juan. So I'd like to encumber those existing sidewalk funds to start. We'd start first with South Holiday.
Is that your motion?
And that's my motion.
I'll second the motion.
We got to have a public hearing on it. We got to have a public hearing to move these funds.
You have to have a public hearing.
Well, I believe you've already got committed the funds that were budgeted for this fiscal year. You would probably, if you're going to try and get this done real soon, to move the remainder out of the reserves that are left in order to get it. So I believe you'll need a public hearing to do that, but I would concur that this is an important project, and that should just, we could ask Ms. Quimby to get on the next board meeting for the actual public hearing to move the money.
Motion to go to public hearing?
Yeah, if that's, yeah.
And I'm in my
public
second,
hearing,
yeah.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just for clarification, that would be the 27th at the next board meeting.
Yeah,
public
that would be
hearing.
the 27th, yeah. And I think that's all I have.
Commissioner Commander?
I didn't have anything, but I do when we were talking, when it came up, we were talking about the Boys and Girls Club and the parks and that sort of thing. And I don't know if there's anything we can do, but I am, first of all, I think at some point we need to bring back Morrison Springs and what we're going to do about even charging enough to keep it open and running and keep the garbage picked up. Over the past 2 or 3 months, the little park in Driftwood has been vandalized 3 or 4 times. I can't go probably 6 weeks or 2 months that the park in Choctaw isn't, somebody's vandalizing it there. I don't know what, we cannot continue to afford to provide these wonderful services to our people and then have others destroy it. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm deeply concerned that we keep on spending,
Is it
money over and over and over.
Is it like graffiti, or are they
It's
tearing
graffiti,
it up?
and the Choctaw, they've literally pulled the toilets out of the wall. I think in Driftwood over the past weekend, they painted, I mean, we're spending a lot of taxpayers' money repairing, so I don't know how we address this. I know in some areas the sheriff has, like at We Care Park, I think, doesn't he have cameras?
Why don't we put webcams out there?
Yeah, in certain, I think we need to look at how do we protect these parks, because they're valuable. Our
secret webcams.
Secret webcams,
Well, Morrison Springs has got a series of cameras throughout there. There's probably about 6, I believe, in there that feed right directly back into the comm center at the sheriff's office, and they can look it over while it's anytime they look up at it, and then after hours it's got an alarm on it, so if somebody walks into the camera path in there after the close of time, it sends an alarm off, and then you can send a deputy right behind it. That might be something we'd have to look at to cover some of your major problem parks. It's expensive, but it's after you replace 2 or 3 bathrooms and all that, you probably made up the difference there.
Yeah, I'm just real concerned that we want to provide these. They're wonderful. I love to go down to the little park at Choctaw, but how do we keep paying for the same money? So whatever we need to do, maybe work with the sheriff's department more, or
because they can catch. It's probably the same group of people.
I'm sure.
Doing it, and they can they call it the people that were burning up cars over in Seagrove. So.
But I would like for us to at some point bring Morrison Springs back to the table and see what we need to do as we're looking at our budget and we have a shortfall. I'm not saying make
Do you
money
have
on
any
Morrison
recreation
Springs.
fees? Do you have any recreation fees up there? Is that's in your district? Yeah, you don't have any recreation fees?
That fee. I don't think he's,
He don't know what it is.
I think Scott spent it all before he left. I don't think he's got it done. You know, because, you know, we did talk about putting in where they could get their air and that sort of thing. So I'd like that put back on the agenda at some point if y'all are in agreement. You gonna talk to me about that?
Yeah. Mr. Enfield, you have anything? Mr. Chapman?
Just one thing, Mr. Chairman. I think anybody that's been to the north end since the staff has went in there and upgraded the audio visual and the monitors and all that, the timers and everything else.
Gotta push your button. You can't hear you.
Can't hear me. Now you can. Can you hear me now? All right. Well, what I was talking about is all the upgrades we've done with the audio-visual equipment up in the main office in Defuniak. And I'm asking the board to allow us to move forward with doing the same thing here. As you well know, the stands that we're presently using tonight, you notice everybody can hear pretty good when I turn it on. But we had to borrow the stands from up there and bring them down here. So these are all busted down there. They don't work like they should. So it's about $4,200 to bring this area up to what it is up there. And I'd ask the board to consider let's move it forward and let staff continue that.
Take it out of your paving budget?
I ain't got no paving budget. It's all in District 5.
Yeah, District 5's got it all.
Mr. I've looked at the board's funds, and I think we can move some line items around to accomplish it this year, so I'd like to make the motion to approve.
I will second that.
We have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Could I also ask administration to look at how we could reconfigure this to give us some more room?
We can double decorate.
Yeah, you know, we almost have too much room in the north, you know, but we're sitting on.
Are there any public comments?
We take up a lot of room.
Yes, sir.
If you could keep the public comments to 3 minutes, and we'll have the timer running.
For the record, Alan Osborne. Tonight you're going to hear another Sandestin issue come up. And what I want to ask you is, how are you going to approve that again tonight? You haven't done NOPC. You've got now 5 or 6 different groups in Sandestin that want to do something, and you hired a special master, and then you didn't require the people who keep coming to ask you for projects, you didn't require them to do anything. They didn't show up. And then when the special master that you spent about $60-some thousand on gave you some recommendations, you didn't follow them. Well, you don't know what you're doing in Sandestin because you got 4 or 5 different factions in there and a developer, and you got the Howard Group, and you got Sandestin Investments, and you're still approving things. How can you fix that plan when you don't even know if it's in compliance? Now, I've submitted to Mr. Davis through my attorney some expert reports to be distributed to you that say that the basic drainage structure, and there's a $50,000 engineer's report in there with bore samplings that say it's not meeting the county minimums of 1 inch. Not even 1 inch. This is something new. It says in there, and there's a sworn affidavit from the former secretary of the DCA, that you haven't followed the process for Sandestin. Now, how are you going to approve something else tonight? You just approved a huge residential section in there under a minor development. And you don't have anything in the land development code that supports that language. What I'm here to ask you for tonight is to finally get your hands around Sandestin, and why don't you appoint a special master to come back here and make all parties come to the table? Last time, the only people that showed up was some of Plans Department and Driftwood, and you accomplished absolutely nothing with that. $60-some thousand, and you wouldn't follow the man's recommendations. Why don't y'all pick and you picked the special magistrate last time. I didn't pick him. Y'all wanted Carlos Alvarez, who's one of the most respected guys in the state. You can't keep hearing these little slivers of this massive development coming before you. You either are doing it in ex parte communications, which the public doesn't get any say-so in, and you come in here and in 15 or 20 minutes try to figure out if this 3,000-acre development is in compliance or not. And you got opposing. Mr. Davis, do you have those reports that I'm talking about? Okay, these are expert reports. It's not hearsay anymore. It's not somebody else's, well, I think. These are people willing to testify that I'm right. The thing's out of compliance. Now, why don't you guys tonight hire and make a motion to have that man come back that you've already spent $60-some thousand and make all these parties who want to build stuff in Sandestin come prove they're in compliance and make a recommendation to you to the board, and you follow it. Why not? You're going to approve something again tonight, and you promised me in 2007 that you would do an NOPC. 2007. Well, you promised me, Mr. Pridgeon, you came out there 10 years ago almost and told me a bunch of crap. Now, why don't y'all pony up on this and quit shuffling papers? This is the biggest development you got in Walton County, and it needs to be brought into compliance. Now, those ordinances are meant to protect me, the citizens, as much as they are the developer. If it protects the developer, so be it. But it doesn't in this case. And you're there to be a representative of me, the citizen, and any average citizen. You spent so much money, and Ms. Commander said it tonight. How much money have y'all spent on bad legal advice, but you won't get a consensus on the Sandestin development? A special master could hold hearings, and not all in ex parte communications, and the public and all the groups that have a say-so in there about the Ferris wheel, whatever, can come make their pitch, and you get a recommendation from a party that has no dog in the hunt. Why not? Because everybody here has a dog in the hunt. And you need an unbiased opinion from somebody, because all your ex parte communications are coming from the developers. Well, where does that leave us as the citizens? I've got $50,000 worth of expert reports that say I'm right, and you won't even comment on them. You always have said for years, where's your experts? Where's your engineers? Mr. Davis is in possession of those, and they've been asked to be distributed to you as commissioners. That's $1.5 billion development, and it deserves more than 10 minutes of lip service up here each time somebody wants to get something approved in there. You're sitting here talking about water quality standards, and I'm possessing an engineer's report saying that half the development in there is not meeting the 1-inch minimum. And they took bore samples and everything else, something nobody else has stepped forward here and said, here's the report. You don't have a traffic analysis since 1984 that's complete. Why not hire a special master and have him come back and make all parties attend, and you get a full recommendation on what's really going on in that development? Because you're not following that code. You're not following your ordinances, and you deserve to have to tell me why you can't follow the ordinance when it happens to be in my favor. Why you're still issuing permits. I would like for you guys to bring back that special master and have a public recommendation to you on how to solve this Sandestin issue.
Question. Why don't we just require an NOPC to be done and completed before we take any applications for any development within Sandestin?
I've asked for that for years.
Isn't that what we really need? Is the NOPC done?
The commission certainly has the authority to request the developer of the DRI to update the NOPC.
Yeah. Before we keep piecemealing it.
And the question is, who is that?
Yeah.
Like in my neighborhood, in my whole section of Block G, that's 422 acres. Nobody's in control of it, which is why I recommended the special master.
Well, that would be part and parcel of the NOPC.
They'd
have to resolve all those issues, and that would be, once and for all, we'd have the update of Sandestin, and we'd know what's there and what's happening, what the impact is.
That NOPC could easily, conceivably take 3 to 4 days, and that's the only reason I brought up the special master, because the information and the expert reports
What do you mean could take 3 or 4 days?
The testimony by the different groups. So like if I'm from this developmental group and this is my position on Sandestin, and I'm from the SOA, this is my position. I'm from LLC Investments, this is our position. And here I am as a homeowner, Commissioner, this is my position.
Okay, I got you.
So everybody's going to have a position on it, and they want an outcome and it to be in black and white. And most importantly, you've got an ordinance on the book you won't enforce. It's an ordinance and you won't enforce it. So maybe we can come up with something that can be enforced.
Didn't we say at a meeting recently that?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I believe I commented we wanted within so many.
Yeah.
Didn't I say less 3 months, 6, whatever we want?
Yeah,
we wanted that NOPC.
But tonight another change comes before you.
You said something like, let's do this now, but we want that NOPC ASAP or something like that.
Yeah, I think I even said 2 months, 3 months. I thought I gave a time limit.
I've got a document from 2007.
You said something like that.
I
can't remember what it was. But
I have asked for a time limit.
Well, then it's time to quit asking. It's time to direct the staff. No more changes until compliance with the master plan that you've adopted by ordinance is obtained.
Let's get into that when we get into the.
I mean, so can we move to get a special master? Can we move not to approve anything else until the NOPC's done? I've got a letter from the county saying that you won't do anything else. This is 3 years ago.
The answer to the last question is no. We cannot at this tonight have a motion to say we're not going to approve anything else until something is done without giving notice to the owner of the development. That would be that would be a gross violation of their due process rights. You can't just stop and without notice and opportunity to be heard. What I would suggest in response to what Mr. Osborne has presented is that you direct me to check on the status of both the Commander's request for the NOPC and the annual report. I understand that they've been working through that, and then I'll report to you back at the next board meeting.
Okay. An issue before us tonight in the public hearing session.
Well, I don't want to consider that until the applicant is here.
Okay.
Because there's been a noticed hearing, a noticed quasi-judicial
okay.
hearing.
I would say to you, why can't we start that process tonight of having a motion to advertise a hearing to stop
Because,
permits?
sir, it's not on the agenda, and the folks who would be affected by it would not have an opportunity to answer it.
I'm not saying that. I'm just talking about tonight, have a motion to start advertising it so those people would.
It needs to be agended before we can take that action.
We can certainly direct Mark to proceed with notifying them that that's what it looks like that's where we're headed.
And I'm not saying the county would reject, or you guys would reject that approach, but if we're going to do that, we can't just do it. We have to have an agenda item to discuss it, give everybody an opportunity to put their input in, and then.
Just understand, the county's position has been to me for 10 years, show up with the proof.
So
now, I've presented it, and I want something done about it.
So we could possibly put it on the first meeting in September?
That would be fine. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And that would give you
an
opportunity to meet with them and see where they are.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Because I believe staff, if I'm looking at Wayne, I believe, didn't y'all communicate with them after the last discussion we had that we wanted that NOPC brought?
Yes, ma'am. They're aware of that. That's been communicated to them. I just want one point of clarification that the item before you tonight is not in
That's right.
the DRI.
That's right,
It's adjacent to it, but it's not included in the DRI.
It's not in the boundaries.
Master plan of traffic, though, and that master plan is adopted by ordinance.
And again, I think that should be discussed during the
presentation. There's some nuances to that too. So
we need to discuss that.
Yeah.
And I would ask the commissioners to read those expert reports. That's why they were presented to the county.
Yeah.
I get them.
Mark, can you read them too?
Well, he did send them to me. It's actually evidence that was submitted in a legal proceeding, so I'm a little hesitant to just forward it to you. I haven't gone all the way through all of them yet, so I will let you know if I feel like it's necessary to do that.
Thank you.
Or appropriate to do that, frankly.
Or if we want to read them, we could. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. They're in the public record, but I just haven't gone all the way through them yet to get them to you.
if we wanted to, if one of us or two of us or three of us wanted to read them, we could, that's what we could, okay.
Yes.
Any other public comments? Yes, sir.
Yes,
Quickly.
Yes.
Hello, I'm Rocky Hard, owner of the Gardens of Monet in Grayton Beach, and I just came over to work in the gardens today, so forgive my casual appearance. I don't in any way think less of the proceedings as casual nor the threat to my property with this parking ordinance that I just discovered when I came over so dressed to work in the gardens. I just have learned that there is this move to change the use of joint parking, off-site parking, which we are right in the middle of doing now.
Sir, that's on the, we haven't started into that. We're going to take a break and then start with this agenda item.
Sorry, I thought it was probably
Okay.
okay. Thank you.
Any other public comments? We're going to take about a 5-minute break.
I gotta wait for Kim to get out of the house.
I know. It's outside of the DRI, but it does affect